There's a lot of misconceptions in the nutrition world, especially online. So it's not lost upon me that there are also misconceptions about dietitians. That's why today we're going to talk about the commonly held misconceptions about registered dietitians and debunk them together. If you are new, hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Katie. I'm a registered dietitian and certified personal trainer. And here on the channel, we talk about how to have a healthy diet and a healthy relationship with food, because I think both are so important to a happy and healthy life. So without further ado, let's jump into the commonly held assumptions about dietitians. I'm actually really excited about talking to you guys about this topic because I have noticed with some of the one-on-one clients that I've had the pleasure of working with that I've heard a lot of comments like, oh, I was actually scared of dietitians before this. I only worked with health coaches or my personal trainer or this other health professional, but I've never worked with a dietitian because I was so afraid of them. So I definitely want to make you feel a little more at ease about seeing a registered dietitian if you're considering seeing one, or if you just don't even know what we do. So I do have a video, I think, on what exactly dietitians do and when it's time to see a dietitian. If you're interested in that, definitely check that video out, and I'll leave it at the end of this video so you can watch that as well. Now that I've distracted myself for an extra minute or so, let's hop into the first common misconception or assumption about dietitians. The first commonly held misconception is that a dietitian is the same thing as a nutritionist. Now, let me explain, because this one gets a little hairy and a little weird. Hairy? I need another word for that. This is a very confusing thing, and I'll try to explain it to the best of my ability, but trust me, it's a pain point for us dietitians too, so you're not alone if you are confused. So dietitians go through 4 to 6 years of schooling specific to nutrition and dietetics. We also need 1,200 hours of an internship or applied practice and to pass a national board exam to actually get that registered dietitian title. We also need 75 continuing education credits every 5 years. So in theory, this kind of weeds out the people who are not giving totally legitimate advice because okay, I go to a registered dietitian for my specialized medical nutrition therapy and diet recommendations. But unfortunately, the word nutritionist on its own doesn't really have a special credentialing behind it. I've seen the words nutrition coach, nutritionist, health coach. A lot of those don't really have a very succinct backing behind them. Health coaching is an exception because there is something to health coaching. You can help people set goals related to health and fitness that aren't really prescriptive. That is what a health coach would do. But nutritionist by itself is not really a covered term that means really anything. Now, caveat number 2, or however many caveats I have on this one particular misconception. A dietitian can call themselves now a RD or a registered dietitian, and they can also refer to themselves as a RDN or registered dietitian nutritionist. So if you see someone that calls themselves a nutritionist, just check if they have that RD or RDN credential, because that means that they're a registered dietitian with that background that I talked about. If not, they are not someone who is using a title that is totally accurate, in my opinion. It can be very misleading to the public, and I'm very disappointed, honestly, in the whole dietetics field, unfortunately, on a lot of different topics, because I think that this could be something that could be managed very easily by telling people that they cannot use the nutritionist title unless they are a registered dietitian, but hopefully we will get there someday. But very confusing and frustrating part of being a dietitian for sure. All right, myth number 2, or misconception number 2 about registered dietitians is that we're basically just glorified weight loss experts. This one really frustrates me personally. I don't have any problems with helping people lose weight in a healthy way. In fact, I really like to help people kind of reframe their mindset about needing to change their body in a drastic way, and just I like to help people find it in a more natural way where they can appreciate their body where they are now. But if they have some body composition goals or something like that, that we can also get there with some kindness and compassion. But back to how it connects with the registered dietitian title. Registered dietitians are not weight loss experts. It has been more of like the popularized topic in nutrition. But as I say in so many of my Instagram reels and stuff like that, weight loss does not equal health. You can be healthy and go from less healthy habits to more healthy habits without having the goal of losing weight. It's also really kind of insulting that people think that that's the only reason that you would ever need to care about your health. That insults dietitians a little bit, and it also insults just the topic of nutrition, because a healthy, balanced diet is something that I have always found fascinating because it has such a big impact on you as a person. That's something that you should care about, whether or not it leads to weight loss. That's my humble opinion. I know that's maybe not everyone's opinion, but seriously, when I was young, I had an eating disorder, and that's how I got into becoming a dietitian after I healed from that eating disorder. And one of the things that I found endlessly fascinating about nutrition is that so when I was in the midst of my eating disorder, my hair was falling out, my nails were brittle, my skin was washed out, and I didn't look healthy in any way. And other things happened, losing my period, stuff like that. And when I got my nutrition back on track, in the end, nutrition really changed everything. I felt better. I looked healthier and better. My skin looked better. My hair looked better. My brain was back to functioning like normal. Nutrition does so many different amazing things for you. It's not just about your weight. And what the difference would be with a registered dietitian is a registered dietitian has the ability to give medical nutrition therapy. So for example, if you are working on something like balancing out your hormones or lowering your cholesterol or having a heart-healthy diet or a diet that's appropriate for type 2 diabetes, a dietitian is someone that is credentialed to give that advice to you. Now, certain dietitians may specialize in certain areas, but we all kind of have that balanced education where we learned all these different categories about nutrition. And then, of course, as you get into the field, you can kind of decide what your niche is or who you like to talk to, or you can kind of have a combination of different types of clients. All right, that's enough for that one. Let's move on to the next commonly held assumption about dietitians. Third common misconception about dietitians is that we all eat perfect and we are basically just little rabbits munching on carrots and celery all day long. I have heard this so much, and honestly, I heard it way more in college than any other time in my life. And it's such an annoying assumption. I understand where this assumption comes from. You think, okay, you're obviously a dietitian, nutritionist. You care about health and nutrition, and that is true. But I think a lot of us that go into the profession, have probably come from some form of a background of being too extreme with it, whether it's just being extreme with nutrition once upon a time or having an eating disorder or having that. I have found that a lot of dietitians actually come with this baggage or background. I don't want to call it baggage, but you know what I mean. And so I think a lot of us have had that experience with food and come out the other side, hopefully, as a dietitian, having a more balanced approach to food that we want to teach other people. So we really like to appreciate all types of foods, and we care about the nutrition. We care about how to teach you how to have a healthy diet in a balanced and reasonable way. But I think a lot of times you will find that most dietitians, we don't eat perfectly. We have a balance of all types of foods. We have alcohol, we have treats, we have whatever you can think of, pizza, tacos, whatever you might wonder if we have all of those foods and appreciate them even more because we have either seen clients take it to the extreme or have taken it to the extreme ourselves, or have someone in our family or our lives that means something very important to us that has gone through that rough relationship with food. Now, I won't speak for all dietitians because I don't think that's true of all dietitians. I've seen some out there that promote different styles of eating, and that's okay. That's their cup of tea, as long as they're within their ethical boundaries of promoting something that is not harmful for someone, then that's okay. But definitely not true that dietitians eat perfectly. We have a variety of foods, and yes, we do care about our health and we try to eat mostly, the nutritious, healthy foods. We do have treat foods too. Myth number 4 about dietitians is that we are the judgy AF food police. So this is definitely one, and I think the one that I alluded to at the beginning of this video when I said that I've had some clients say, hey, I was scared to see a dietitian before. And hey, I do not blame you for thinking that. I have met some dietitians that probably gave off that vibe, and I totally understand where you're coming from. Again, no one can speak for their whole entire profession. I think that's pretty fair and pretty hard to do in any profession. You're gonna have some doctors that are bad, some that are good. You're gonna have some lawyers that are great, some that are not so great. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, not all dietitians are built the same. And I'm sure, again, there are some judgy ones out there. But speaking on behalf of most of the people that I know that are dietitians, I think we're a lot less judgy than you might think. We are not looking at your plate and saying, ugh, she should have had something different. Or, are you sure you want to have that pork? Like, we're not thinking those things, I promise. We are in our own lane. The only time that we're going to give feedback on anything dietary related is for one-on-one clients or people who ask. And even then, sometimes I try to be only objective and constructive with my feedback on someone's diet. I do it with my one-on-one clients, and usually, honestly, you want to know the truth? Most of the time we are talking about how to incorporate more calories and more balance, which usually involves higher quantities of food. That's the number one thing. And I don't even solely just work with people with eating disorders or past histories of eating disorders. Usually I'm working with people on reverse dieting, where you may have restricted heavily in the past and not necessarily had an eating disorder, but your body needs to reacclimate and get your metabolism up and get readjusted to having more normal amounts of food. So instead of that 1,200 calorie diet, maybe something like 1,800 to 2,000 calories. I have seen so many clients have such high success with transitioning and making these small changes. So yes, just to circle back to the main point of this misconception and debunking it, we aren't judging. We aren't thinking, oh my gosh, how can this person be eating so much food? They need to restrict more. We're probably thinking the opposite. Okay, myth number 5 or assumption number 5 is that all dietitians are women. And this one is wrong. Only 92% of us are women. So yeah, the dietetics profession came from nursing. So back in the day, and now some of my history may be imperfect, but this is the gist of the history of dietetics. So dietetics was originally created in around 1912, I believe, and it was around the time of World War I, where a lot of soldiers were needing specific nutrition interventions, and they needed nurses that specialized in nutrition to help the soldiers heal from wounds and go into battle more productively. And so with that, they ended up kind of, having certain nurses veer off into the nutrition realm and specialize in that. And then I assume after that, they probably created a totally separate niche to dietetics. So now you have dietitians. Yay, history lesson. That created dietetics, and I think it's one of those things, what was I saying? Long story short, dietetics kind of originated from nursing, so it doesn't really surprise me that we have around the same types of issues that came about with the nursing profession, which is that a lot of nurses are women, but I think that is changing a lot in the nursing profession, and I think it will change too in dietetics. I think we can get that number a little bit more even from men and women, but there's a lot of things that we need to address in the dietetics profession. Just being honest. And I also think that about 80% of the dietetics profession is Caucasian, which is another like sign of an issue and an imbalance in the profession. And there's definitely solid reasons behind that. Like, for example, our internships, most of them are paid. And I don't mean like we get paid. I mean like we have to pay the internship. Now, I was really lucky and my internship was actually like a combined grad assistant program. So I got paid during my time as a grad assistant, and then that gave me enough money to kind of skirt by for 8 months without getting paid at all. But most internships are not like that. So you basically have to be privileged enough to not get paid for 8 months and also to be able to live and eat while you are in your internship. So it's pretty messed up. And I have to say that I feel fortunate to have been able to go through that, but I basically skirted by with my mental health just like hanging on by a tiny, tiny, tiny baby thread the whole time on my internship. So that's a whole problem in itself. I know, play me a song on the world's smallest violin, but that's the dietetics profession for you. Definitely need to have some changes coming very soon because it's not the most fertile ground to grow on. Okay, and myth number 6 is that dietitians know anything and everything about every single nutrition topic, every vitamin, every mineral, every single disease state, all of that. Now, this one's a funny one, and I think my fiance loves to joke with me. Like every time he picks up a food, he will ask me what nutrients are in it, and I'm like, bro, I am a dietitian, not an encyclopedia. I do not have a photographic memory, but that does not mean that dietitians are incompetent in nutrition and health either. Like what I will say is that I think school does a good job of giving you that solid background of nutrition, but then also helping you interpret and analyze research better so that when you face these new questions and topics that come about in the media or from clients or wherever it may be, we have that ability to read and interpret research better from a scientific and practical standpoint so we can help interpret that for ourselves, our own continuing education, and also for our clients and the benefit of our clients. So that is what we do as dietitians. And if you think that any other health profession is any different, you're wrong. I mean, think about it. Do you think that your doctor knows every little detail that they learned in medical school and they have it all memorized in their brain photographically so they can just regurgitate it the moment that you ask them a question? Yeah, that is not how it works. They also look things up too. So it's not just dietitians, it's every single probably profession that you'll ever come across. We don't know everything about everything, but we probably do have the tools more so than the average human being to research and find out the right answer or the best answer for that specific topic. So that is my answer to that. All right, thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a little fun, and I hope that you learned a thing or two from today's video. Let me know what was new to you, and also if you have any questions or you just have another topic that you'd like to see on the channel, definitely let me know in the comment section below. I love hearing your ideas and what questions you have and what you'd like to see me talk about, because yeah, that helps shape this whole channel. So again, thank you. And if you want to keep hanging out with me today, then click or tap the screen to head over to the next video.